Gamebreaker TV.
You are watching the first and longest running new media broadcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Welcome to Game Breakers The Republic. You will never need to listen to any other Old Republic podcast ever again. Oh, who were they kidding? They're just a bunch of nerds geeking out about the Old Republic on the internet. But here's your host. You don't need to see his identification. It's Larry Everett.
Hey everyone, I am Larry Everett, and you are watching The Republic on Gamebreaker TV. This is episode 202, and today is March 12th, 2015. And today, Star Wars The Old Republic breaks down what happens when people win trade and other things that happen in rank. 3.1.1 has gone live, and the Community Cantina is coming to Anaheim, California. But first, let me introduce my host, the one and only host today, from his stream on Twitch, R3DN4. It is Redna. How are you doing? What is going on, sir?
Hey. It's going great. I've been looking forward to coming back all week. What can I say? Played a heck of a lot. Got 2 operations groups that are legitimately in hard mode training now, so it's
sweet. Yeah. That's good too. Yeah, my group is because they had to gear me up because I was, and we'll probably talk about this later in the show because of 3.1.1. But I had to switch characters because I just could not stand. Not that I couldn't put out the DPS, I just couldn't stand to.
Were you a Powertech?
I was a Marauder, and I started out as a Marauder, and I've now switched to Juggernaut. I'm Juggernaut all the way through operations, and I had to re-gear myself, and thankfully I have a really good raid team that is patient and willing to put up with gearing me out again. Turn off the music. What? It's fine. Music's fine.
No, I've heard other people say that they've been kind of stepping away from their Sentinels for the time being because of the advantages that other classes have right now.
Yeah.
I know that they're supposed to be getting some love though, so hopefully it.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that later. But first, I do want to talk about one thing that's happening in ranked. Eric Musco went on to the forum, and he basically addressed some issues that let me find where it is. Maybe there it is. He addressed some issues with ranked. For instance, it's not things we haven't heard of before. Win trading and griefing, like leaving the war zone after it started. Those kinds of things, and He said, as we promised, we wanted to keep you informed what we're doing about win traders and trolls in ranked PvP. And this is what he said. And I actually have little note cards for this. So he says, we have been reviewing multiple sets of data, along with private reports that many of you have been sending to the team. Any player who, through valid data, is win trading is receiving and will be receiving at minimum a warning. And then he goes on to say, not only are we warning these users to stop what they are doing, continued win trading will lead to greater actions, including resetting their ratings and suspension time. First off, the first thing that comes to my mind that I want to talk about is just not specifically what he said, but the fact that he's communicating these things.
Yeah.
Right?
And following up on it. That's the better part.
Yeah. I am I'm kind of impressed. I think that I think it's really cool that he's taken this step forward as a community manager and said, "Hey, you know what? I said I would do this. I'm going to do this," because it was, as we know in in the past, it's not always been very clear what the community team is doing and what the consequences were for certain actions and things along that line. What do you think?
Honestly, Musko's been really impressing me lately. He's following through. He's even been more active on his Twitter account. And frankly, at this stage, I just feel a little sorry for Tate and Musko because holy crap, they're the only ones doing the community team stuff. They must be so stinking swamped. But that being said, they're doing it. I'm really, really happy. Courtney was always very good at her job, but they have definitely stepped up their game with her absence.
Yeah, I got to say, and just for those that aren't aware of it, Courtney Woods, who was part of the community team, is no longer part of the community team. She actually is a writer now on tour, which, congratulations to her. That's amazing. And then, so right now, and then obviously Hillary left to do her own thing a little while ago as well before PAX South. And now it's Tate and Musko. It's the Tate and Musko show, and I have to, and like Red was saying, I think that they're doing a good job. If you go to the forum, you go to the dev tracker, you'll notice how much they are communicating with the with the audience, with people on the forums, with people who play the game in general. And like you said, Eric's been more active on his Twitter account. Tate has always been active on his Twitter account. He's
always been very responsive.
Yeah. And I got to say, from my my personal experience, because I have some friends that run fan sites, and I've talked to them about some things that have happened. I think that one of the things that Musko's doing, and this might sound like a negative, but it's really not. He's admitting his faults and correcting them. Not only is he going, oh, you know what, I goofed up on that, I'm really sorry, let's see what we can do to set this right. That's what he's doing, and that's what everybody's going to make mistakes at some point, and I'm just I'm glad that that he's admitting his faults and stepping up to the plate on that one. But
honestly, well, at its worst, there was a point there where I was only looking at the dev tracker like once a week because I could keep up that way, and now I'm actually having to check in every day or two because they are actually really interacting, and it's making the community team feel a lot more personal again, which they were in the past. There was just a down period. So yeah, no, it's honestly just very happy right now with the team, and cannot wait to see, hopefully in the next week or two, that they announce who's going to be replacing, getting that job that they posted. Honestly, I'd like to see them pick up 2 more people, because we know with the amount that we want from them, 4 would be a better number even than 3, and the fact that they're doing this well with 2 just blows my mind.
Yeah,
I've got so much more respect for them right now.
Yeah, they are going. If there is a little bit of a lull in them responding to you and that kind of thing, they're just overloaded. 2 people cannot handle this community. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about what exactly was happening in general, because just reading from the chat room, they're not exactly sure. Or the question came up, what was win trading? I'm going to go ahead and put this back up on the screen with what they said. This was regarding win trading. Now, win trading itself, actually, let me go back to this here real quick. I'll come back to that later. Win trading itself is whenever you absolutely allow one team to win. And usually what happens is the other team that's in your ranked match, and you just let them win until you put up alts or something like that. You have alts, the other team has their mains beat your alts, and you let them win every single time. That's pretty much
and the most obvious way is you make sure you figure out when the slowest moments are in the deepest dark of the night, so that no one else is queuing, and then you go into the solo queues and you've got 4 buddies on the opposite faction and 4 buddies on your faction, and then you just queue sync that way, in order to deliberately, basically, say you want it on your imp tune, then you have your buddies lose over and over and over when you're on your imp tune, and then you switch to the pub side and let them win over and over and over on their imp tune, you know.
Yeah,
It's much easier to pull off because of the problems with population and the ability to queue sync. But when I talked to Musco in San Antonio at PAX South, he was also very aware. Like, they are not taking punishment to people that are queue syncing. Like, if you're on an unpopulated faction compared to the other faction, and you need to talk to your friends just to get the Q2 pop, that's fine. Like, you've got to encourage people to get in there and actually queue. And hopefully the four of you are good, and maybe that does give you an advantage. But they really can't do anything about that because of the faction imbalances and the population problems for the queues in ranked PvP.
But there isn't, at this current time, there's no real way to prevent win trading. There isn't a real good way to do it because they don't have a good, like they said, the better than cross server hasn't happened yet. So,
right.
By the way, better than cross server is who actually said that one? I forget. Was it? It wasn't.
It's one of the devs at a community canteen. I can't remember which. It was not Musco. People were quoting Musco, but it wasn't him.
No, it wasn't him.
It was said, but it was not him.
Yeah, it was. Gosh, I want to say it was Bruce McLean that said that. I want to say that it was him.
May have been.
Yeah, I want to say that.
Was it in the same time when he spoiled the fact that Togruta was coming?
I'm pretty sure it was. I think it was. I think it was the same time that he spoiled Togruta. That was at the New York Comic-Con, the Cantina that happened up there. But yeah, so there's no real way to prevent win trading. But as you said, they will be reviewing multiple sets of data along with the private reports. And is this appropriate? Where's the warning? Their actual punishment here is the warnings to those. They'll warn, and then if the users don't stop, then that could lead to resetting their ratings and suspension time. Fair enough? Or
as first steps, I'd like to see. Frankly, how long is the suspension time? And flat out, if they're going to suspend it all, they better be resetting their rankings.
True.
You know, at the same time. It's a tough call. I mean, the problem, win trading is a problem, and I totally recognize that. And yeah, they should absolutely be addressing it. The core problem is still being unaddressed, which is that the queues.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to adequately encourage people to participate, and the PvP community still just hasn't gotten appropriate attention. And I just don't know. It doesn't seem like it's enough, but it's just hard. It's hard, frankly. I don't know the solution.
Okay, so I know that if anybody reads the Hyperspace Beacon or has read the Hyperspace Beacon in the past, I'll do a grading. I'll use the Bartle system of categories of MMO players, which Socializer, the Achiever, the Killer, and the Explorer is the if you know anything about that, that's what those are the four categories that they fall into. And usually people that we consider to be PvPers, which doesn't necessarily just include PvPers, fall into the Killer category. And I have consistently, every single time that I've had to I've graded TOR at the end of the year. I'll do it at the end of the year. I'll judge what they've done throughout that year, and I will give them, an ABCD score. ABCDF score is what I'll give them. And
for each of those four categories.
Right, for each of those four categories, because that's, I think it's a good litmus test regarding what kind of player you are to you can look at that and go, oh, okay, well, if I'm this kind of player, then I probably like this game. And consistently, I've rated the Killer low. Last year, I failed them on it. The year before, I gave them a D. And the only reason they got a D was because of GSF. And now GSF really isn't anything now, because they've kind of stopped working on it. But I got the question that I have, and that I continually ask myself, is number one, why haven't they done anything to help out the killer type? And number two, if they're going to do it, how are they going to do it? I mean, what would you say? And let's go to the first question. Why do you think it is that the killer type for Star Wars: The Old Republic is difficult to I give things to encourage to play? Why do you think that's difficult for them?
Well, I mean, if they're bound to being dedicated to in-game rewards for their arena seasons, right? The carrot that they're supposed to be chasing. I mean, even if you give them 20,000 cartel coins, that's not really what they're going for, because that personality type doesn't probably care about the cartel market. You know, it's a bunch of cosmetic stuff that they really don't care that much about. I mean, what does the killer type want? They want a really good, active PvP environment where they can actually go out and slaughter one another, or a dynamic open world environment, or, you know, things like this. And I don't know. That's why I struggle. It's like people ask me, well, what do you think they should do? And I'm like, honestly, I want those people that have, you know, if there are better, more successful PvP aspects in other games, tell me about it so that I could even discuss that. Because it's my most frustrating flaw is that I just don't have the knowledge to know the answer. And people will talk about, okay, you need to really harshly punish the PvPers that are doing this terrible behavior that is breaking the ELO system, but it's an ineffective ELO system anyway, and they're giving out rewards that are not server-based, so you're not even incentivized when you realize that your server doesn't have an active PvP community compared to Prophecy to 5 or Bastion or whatever servers. So then those servers, ELO works that you have to trade ELO. Like, the more people you have in it, the more total ELO there is, which means that there's a higher level that you can get. So, I mean, they need to... actually, you know what? There is one thing that that would be cool. If they actually found a way to... And when they mentioned esports, if they actually took what they considered the best, and, you know, it would still be a painful process, but it would be neat to see them actually take the best of the best from every single server, do it in a 4v4, you know, not the solo queues, but the 4v4s, and then you want to do ESL, and bring them, like, pay. We're going to do a tournament. We will bring you all to a location so that there is no latency problems, no ping, no nothing. And then you're going to go and we will stream it, we'll televise it, and we'll give you a purse. That might do it, bring new people in, say, hey, at the end of the year we're going to do that, and you will probably see an influx of PvPers coming in over the next 6 months that, okay, fine, I got to level up, but I'll power it through. I'll even sub up while I level up so that I get the best experience returns and have, you know, my boosts going and everything, and get the character and be competitive. But you need to foster a genuine competitive environment, and we've never seen that.
Well, you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head whenever you said you got to foster a genuine competitive environment, because one of the biggest thing about the killer type of player, and I am by no means, I don't consider myself an expert as far as the killer type is concerned. However, I have done quite a bit of research on it. Besides all the stuff that Bartle said, Ricky also did some things as well called the Daedalus test that talked about all these different types of players and what they actually like to do. Because there are some players that say they want this kind of thing, but then they don't actually really want that kind of thing. They want something else, but they want that feeling that they get when they did that thing. But at any rate, I digress. The killer type thrives off of competition, like you said, and one of the things that they really like to see, and this is a true killer type. This isn't necessarily somebody that, because not just killers PvP, achievers PvP, and other types of players PvP as well. But the killer type likes to be able to rank himself against other players and see where he stands in regard to, depending on where he is, the best of the best, or even people within his skill bracket, and there isn't really a way to do that. And unfortunately, what I think part of the thing that is missing are the leaderboard. First off, the elo system needs to be reworked. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work right. It doesn't. It needs to. The elo system needs to work in both ranked, and the elo system needs to work in non-ranked as well. There needs to be some sort of system where people of similar skill are matched up with each other. But then also we need to be able to ranked. What it shows is skewed because it's deathmatch 4v4 arenas. Not saying that is bad, that those are like that kind of gameplay is bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that gameplay is incomplete. It doesn't show what PvP is about. It shows one kind of PvP. And if we based all of PvP, let's throw Tor aside, if we base all of PvP on one type of PvP, then that does not give us any indication of what PvP is actually like in games in general. And unfortunately, that's what we're doing with Tor, and that is really, really bad. And it doesn't really give a good impression of Tor as far as, PvP altogether is concerned.
PvP goes, yeah. The PvE is freaking phenomenal right now.
It is.
Post 3.0, but PvP, I guess, and that's something I have wanted for a while they've demonstrated the ability to get it. There've been some hiccups along the way, but they've got it. They've got the leaderboards up for the current, the ranked stuff. I would like to see leaderboards for everything.
I would too, absolutely. I'm totally on board with that.
Put it up for regs, because then people can actually get a feel for how they actually are doing in the 8v8 environment. Fine, it's not ranked, but put leaderboards on it.
That's the thing.
Put leaderboards on GSF.
That's the thing.
Put leadoroboards on achievements attained playing PvP.
That's the thing about it. It isn't necessarily. It doesn't have to be ranked. Or it doesn't have. There doesn't have to be some sort of reward for being wherever on the leaderboard. It's just the idea that the leaderboard is there, and you can see where you are in comparison to other people. I think that would be leaps and bounds above what they have now, and I think it would encourage so many more PvPers to jump in. And it also, on top of that, the benefits to the developers would be amazing. And the reason I say that is because they'll be able to see the trouble spots, the actual trouble spots. Because right now on the leaderboards, we're seeing a lot of madness assassins, right, being and Powertechs being way up at the top, right? Well, and heads and shoulders above the rest of the classes. However, that doesn't necessarily.
Powertech just got hit with the latest patch.
Yeah, that's true too.
They've already said that shadows and assassins are incoming.
But
and that touches on a fundamental point too. Is in order for it to be a good competitive environment, they really need to get better at class balance.
Yeah.
Now they're doing much better at doing rapid deployments of changes and adjustments, but I still think that they swing the hammer too hard. They need to do micro adjustments to bring things into class balance, but they're getting better. It's just I wonder sometimes if it's too little, too late. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm starting to just settle into okay, PvP, it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and let them continue to give it what attention they do, but it's clearly not their first priority, and the rest of the game is so wonderful, and I feel terrible for the completely neglected die-hard PvP community.
Yeah.
Isn't there a point when you should just acknowledge, okay, BioWare has really made it clear this is not the important thing for them?
Yeah. Oh, well, I've gone so far. I was being a little bit hyperbolic, but I have gone so far as to say that I think that that BioWare should just forget about PvP and just leave it the way it is and do what they do best, which is PvE. Because up until this point, and I have to say I do like that they are implementing the class balance changes as quickly as they are. I don't necessarily think that they are doing them well. Like you said, I think they need to be a little more micro changes rather than massive overhauls, but I do like that they've been doing it again. But at any rate, I do want to talk about the other thing that he mentioned. He did mention as well griefing, which he said that those players that seem to have one singular purpose to ruin the spirit of PvP, they refuse to participate or they leave the match altogether. Those players will be receiving anything from a warning to suspension time based on the severity of their actions. So that's from Eric Musco again on the forums talking about punishments in PvP. And yeah, I mean pretty much the same as win trading. I do like the fact that he did point out the two trouble areas in ranked PvP as far as the win trading and griefing and those kinds of things are concerned. And he said, this is what's going to happen if you do these things. I am glad that he did that. I'm glad that he said, you know what? We know your guys are doing this. Stop doing it, or these things are going to happen. Any final thoughts on that one?
Again, I'm wondering too if they might actually just be implementing the systems and trying to get their algorithms right and be able to track these people and actually pay attention and address. They're putting out some warnings right now so that hopefully there's a lot of warnings, and hopefully they upset some people that are legitimately trying really hard and they're doing terrible, but it looks suspicious. And this is, the first step is letting people know that, yeah, we can actually see that you're doing it. I'm curious. Like, I've had people in my stream's chat room who have said flat out, I do it. I've never received any warning or anything. Mm-hmm. But apparently these just went out. I'm curious to see if any of them come to my chat room and say, yeah, I got a letter, I don't know. I'm really glad to see him doing and feeding back, and I think that a lot of people are going to ultimately want to see more. I'm also curious if there's a way that they could even not necessarily have to suspend them entirely from the game, but just cut them out and say, no, you can't queue for ranked. Like, turn that feature off on an account-by-account basis. And because there are cases like constantly leaving the game. Some people have horrible internet connections.
Yeah.
I'm sure, do not intend to be throwing games for people over and over and over again, but they should not be queuing for PvP if they can't get their connection right. Well, ranked. Unranked, hey, it backfills, that's cool, but for ranked, you shouldn't be in there if you can't, like, you're literally physically incapable of competing because of your internet or computer issues. It's good to see them doing it, and I kind of respect that they understand that there's a difference. There are trolls, and they're not win trading. They freaking just like to go in there and laugh their heads off that they, were able to screw 3 people's game.
Yep.
They're not working with anybody for any goal other than the fact that they like the lols. So good, address them too.
And by the way, Brain Break TV. Yes, we do interact with the chat room. We are watching you guys constantly. But feel free to ask questions. We won't necessarily get to them if they're not exactly related to the topic, but we do like to see you interacting with us, and we will comment on some of the stuff that you're saying. But thanks a lot for joining us. I really appreciate that, and talking in the chat room. At any rate, I do want to get to the next thing. BioWare did have to delay patch 3.1.1. But now it's out. It came out this morning, and I talked a little bit about. I mean, and actually at the beginning of the show we talked about it as well. The Marauder and Sentinel changes. I know that. I mean, I am there. I'm still of the mind that, man, these are not the changes that we needed. Marauders and Sentinels, it needed something drastically different. We needed, because we're just in both in PvP environment and I noticed especially in the PvE environment, we're not outputting the DPS that we should, or at least I'm gonna get in trouble for saying that because Marauders can output good DPS. I just don't think it is I don't think it is to
It's
the
not
level
good
that it
enough
needs to
for its BioWare's stated goal that now going forward they want melee DPS when they're standing still to be able to do more damage than any ranged.
Yeah.
They're not doing that.
That's yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get in trouble because I know that yes, my DPS is the same if I have if somebody else that's a ranged DPS standing still or whatever is going to on a test dummy, I'm gonna get really close to what they're doing, but where
I think they said that they wanted melee DPS to be 5% above ranged DPS.
Is it 5%? Well, which that kind of makes sense.
Which is fine because you have to move off target occasionally, and you know.
This. I think that's kind of admitting, and I think that's something that they kind of they really need to do is admit that, hey, guess what, our operations are not melee friendly, and they're not. They're really not.
Particularly the latest ones are very melee unfriendly.
I'm telling you.
But you know what? That's just a set. They have had some fights in the game that boss fights that have been melee friendly.
Yeah.
And dude, each operation that comes out gets better, more creative, has different features, new mechanics. I mean, they're constantly adding new stuff that way through their operations. So I would very much like to see some more innovative, creative means of necessitating, you know, I'd like to see a good boss fight where it's friendlier to the melee than it is to the ranged. You know?
Yes. There have been a couple that have had mechanics that I'm trying. I know there's been a couple of them that have mechanics that the boss will target the ranged DPS before it targets the melee DPS. I've seen there's some of those, and so I don't think it's Bolos is not that bad. That's what they're saying in chat room. I'm not exactly sure about that one. That one, I guess that's for melee.
If you had a full group of melee, it would be that bad.
Yeah,
because that fire hits, and you can't spread out enough. You're all gonna get thumped. You would be stressing your healers out pretty hardcore.
I think that's the big thing is that the fire thing. Other than that, I think it's probably about the same. If it wasn't for the fire, I'm just going through the mechanics in my head really quickly and trying to think. I think that the fire would be the only thing that's an issue. In fact, the fire is kind of a thing, kind of an issue now, because if I'm not mistaken, the third on the is it based on threat? Who gets the fire? I think it was third on the threat meter is the person that gets the fire. Could be wrong about that. And if that happens,
that's why I get it so often.
Yeah, if
because I'm a healer and there's two tanks.
yeah. So the third on the threat meter, I could be completely mistaken about that. So don't quote me on that, but I believe that's the truth. And if that's a melee DPS, that hits the tank as well, and that's not good. So anyway, anyways,
you know.
Hit detaunt on the Bolos fight. I do all the time, just to be sure. But I do think that
I would say actually for all the bosses, I'm trying to run through them all in my head, but that is probably the most friendly for melee for sure.
Well,
actually, the Malachar, first one in Temple of Sacrifice, is pretty melee friendly too.
Yeah.
Hell, even Sparky's pretty melee friendly, as long as your healers and tanks know how to negotiate that well.
There's some of them that are at least equal with melee as far as that's concerned. I mean, the Sparky, like you said, that's pretty much the same melee to ranged. It's not a whole lot of difference as far as that's concerned.
And I guess that's my thing. That's why I would like to see one that is not just equal. I would like to see melee actually have an advantage. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you actually want to bring more melee in because it's going to be better for the group. You know, there are tons of groups where they're like, okay, well, we'll bring a Sentinel for their inspiration. But, you know, or we'll bring this one Discipline Shadow because, they're really phenomenally good. So they can get the spot, you know? But it's like, if they had their preference and an infinite choice of excellent players, they would go with a largely ranged group.
Our group is, well, we do 8-man, and our group is we're doing hard modes now too as well, and we have it split. We have, in fact, we have two operations groups in my guild, and both of those operations groups are split even, 2 melee, 2 ranged, different kinds of ranged, different kinds of melee for that matter. But yeah, I think it's okay. For the most part, they've done a pretty decent job. You know what? To be honest, though, other than the part with the lurklings, which is horrible on melee, other than the lurkling part, the underlurker is actually more melee friendly because the cross part and things along that line, you don't have to. You're already there.
No, it isn't, because the advantage that the ranged have is some tremendous AOE output. So that when you've got 3 ads down and they're just spamming their AOE, and then you've got the boss, Sentinels don't have any AOE like that.
Well, okay, so that's more of a that's more, well, see.
And frankly, the fact you're constantly having to move, and that's always going to be more friendly to the ranged, particularly now because they've all got so much DPS while they're running, So repositioning doesn't slow down their DPS, whereas for a melee, they're going to be standing just off the edge of the rock, pumping out a bunch of DPS while you're just standing behind the rock because you can't contribute anything.
All right. I don't know. I think that I'd rather just see it balanced rather than ones that are just not melee friendly. That's really what it boils down to.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I would like to see a melee more friendly fight than a ranged fight, particularly because that would be more balanced. I'm totally okay with them designing fights that are melee unfriendly, and give an advantage to ranged and whatever. I just want to see both sides of that coin.
All right. Well, so we talked about Marauders, but one of the other things that they talked about, and this is like my worst class. I have all classes. I've played all classes now, but my worst class is the bounty hunter because I play Imperial side, but the trooper. But I know that you play a trooper. You play a trooper. You're trooper healer, right? Currently, you're commando healer on your raid group. You're muted.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure at all if I don't think we took any changes to my healer, did we?
Well, there isn't really, but I thought perhaps that well, I know the Powertech.
They fixed the bug.
Yes, they fixed the bug. Is there anything else in? Like I said,
that's actually the only. Gunnery got to change. Cover fire now slows the target's movement speed by 70% for 3 seconds with each hit, up from 2 seconds. So that's actually a really cool, interesting PvP bonus that they get for DPS. But it's and it doesn't look like these changes for a lot of the changes that hit the plasma tech. Yeah, they have nothing to do with the shared tree. So
no,
frankly, this is not a commando or mercenary conversation. This is about Powertech and Vanguard, and their plasma tech build has been spanked. The DPS has declined. The chat room was saying earlier that basically because of the way that the procs work, and it is now, there is a serious problem with heat management or ammo management, that it's very easy to bottom out on your resource. And as a result, your procs aren't syncing up nicely. It's become pretty clunky to play. In fact, we've got a Powertech in our group that mains it, and he got on and was playing on it, and he's already respect. Like that's what it boils down to. He's already respect, and he's able to pull numbers that were nearing what he could do, like within a few hundred of what he could do before the changes. But these changes have really dropped them. I'm curious to see how it plays out in the PvP environment. The shoulder cannon definitely changes their burst potential, which is a good thing. But I would expect that perhaps, okay, heat management is less of an overall problem in ranked arenas because arenas are about, just nuke somebody down really quick.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but definitely this spec has been hurt. It is, and I think it is a case of them having done a bit too much.
I know that our we do have a Powertech, not in my raid group, but in our the second raid group in my guild. That is, if he hasn't already said, "Forget this, I'm playing another class," he's really seriously thinking about it. He's one of those guys that can, just play just about any class. He can just pick it up and play it. He's amazing. But he chose Powertech because he's actually played Powertech for most of the raids for a very, very long time. I'm pre 3.0, and now he's thinking about changing. And it's kind of the way that I felt with the stuff that happened with Marauder. I'd been playing Marauder since the beginning of the game, and then So hopefully it does. Hopefully here's the thing. I obviously it's already out there. We can't do anything about the changes that are already there, right? So it's done.
They just came back.
Yeah.
Came out too, so that we can't.
Right.
We can't know what the overall impact is going to be.
And hopefully they realize some of the issues quickly, especially in the PvE, and are able to fix it. Because I know this patch. Let's be honest. This patch is for PvP. This is not. And I think that a lot of the considerations.
Except the chat room saying that a lot of people weren't playing Plasma Tech anyway. So, that was at least from why they said that they were making the changes as they were in previous posts from the devs that were doing the balancing. That's what they said it was about. But what's interesting too is that they did actually buff the tanking a little bit. Mm-hmm. They increased their threat and they increased their defense or their mitigation. So they're in a better place for shielding or for
shield specialists
for tanking.
Yeah.
For tanking, yeah. So that'll be nice. We've got in both of my operations groups we have one Vanguard.
Yep.
Or Powertech. So
yeah, my
glad to see that.
My tank in my raid group is well, not me personally, but the tank in my raid group is a Powertech. So yeah, kudos on that end. They definitely needed something because although I've got to be fair though, he didn't really lose aggro that much. It was just that he never output the same amount of DPSs or anywhere close to not DPS but threat that our assassin tank did. He didn't ever even come close to that. So at any rate, there's that. And then like you said, these are mostly PvP changes. I'm glad to see them. But again, they were delayed. This is one thing. Actually, you mentioned this, and it's not exactly related to this, but I did want to bring it up. What was the live stream thing that they were going to do that they didn't do?
Yeah, right. the live stream that they said they would do during PAX East since they couldn't make it because the weather was too bad, and apparently it was like sunny over the weekend, but. Yeah, no, it hasn't happened. Apparently, they have said in the chat in the forums that it is coming. They're still working out the date or whatever. So at least we know it's still coming. But
what are they planning on doing? Were they just going to do the Cantina, except they were just going the presentation that they usually?
Well, the big thing is that they've publicly stated since PAX South, which you and I got to be at, which was awesome, that they're changing the direction that they want to go with their cantinas and actually give real information at each cantina.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be some sort of announcement that they will first reveal at the cantina and then post on their site. Well, that's what I want to hear. Even if they do a 15-minute stream. But frankly, what I would really like to see, and they could nail it with this stream, is that they actually bring on some devs to answer questions from the chat room. And Musco's really good about filtering what questions get asked when or how. But that's, if you need to recreate the community cantina experience in a digital format, then you make your announcement that we all would like to know what that is, and then actually let some people ask a few questions of the devs that aren't the ones we've always heard. Not the public Q&A, but the ones where you can actually pull a dev aside. Well, you've got them on the stream. Ask them something about what they actually work on.
Well, the last thing I want to talk about, speaking of cantinas, good transition into the next community cantina is going to happen on April 18th.
Dude, I'm so psyched.
Are you going?
I'm trying to work that out. I might actually be going, yeah.
Oh, that'll be awesome. Okay, anyway, for everybody else, if you're in the Anaheim area on April 18th, which is a Saturday, it's during Star Wars Celebration. They are going to have the community cantina there. Did they have the details, or are the details coming later? I didn't see that. But at any rate, that is during Star Wars Celebration, which, by the way, Star Wars Celebration, I'm so psyched about this celebration because we have a movie
Dude,
coming
this is
out.
a year of Star Wars.
Oh, I know. I'm telling you, we have J.J. Abrams, and I think most of the cast is going to be there. Most of the cast of Star Wars Episode 7 is going to be there. Anyway, that's April. I didn't say the date. April.
Dude, yeah,
16th.
like almost the entire cast. I haven't heard that Harrison Ford's going to be there, but other than him, I think I've heard that everybody else that like legacy people, as well as like the entire cast of Star Wars Rebels, and I mean like everybody and anybody that has anything to do with Star Wars or has had anything to do with Star Wars. It looks like this is like the convention of conventions for Star Wars that has never happened and everybody's always wanted.
Yeah, and man, I really wish I could be there. I'm not gonna be able to.
I'm trying to line up the plane ticket, but yeah.
Give me a plane ticket while you're at it, and I'll owe you one. No, April 16th through the 19th, it's gonna be the Anaheim Convention Center, and that is Star Wars Celebration, and man, I cannot wait.
And the community cantina is going to be Saturday, April 18th. It's between 7 and 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And they've got the address posted. It's the Hilton in Anaheim. But the cool thing is, too, they've actually mentioned that so they're actually going to have the 501st attending the community cantina, which is sweet.
Cool. That's cool.
They're going to have green screens set up for pictures with people that are set up there and everything. They're going to be having a brand new giveaway. It's not a pet code this time. They're giving out mounts.
It's a mount this time. That's right. Yeah.
And I noticed in the dev responses that Musco said that it's not going to be exactly the same as has happened with pet codes in the past. That there might be some... Well, first of all, there was concerns like, hey, dude, we want the mounts. But hundreds of thousands of us aren't going to be able to make it to your 5 cities that you tend to go to for the community cantinas. And apparently there will be definite ways to get it via other means. But it's also not going to work the exact same way. And I'm not sure what that means. I'm looking forward to getting more information about that. I think he said that when they actually do the stream, I said do. That they will be giving us that information. So... Like, it's cool. It's really, really cool.
Maybe they'll just be... Maybe it'll be just... they'll go hog wild and actually stream the cantina.
Hey, man, they're setting up a green screen. Why not?
It would be amazing.
That would be bonkers.
Eric, if you're listening, there you go.
Win.
All right. Anyway, that is... again, that's April 18th. At 7 to 10, and the information is on SWTOR.com. You can check more of that out. Can I get music going here? No, probably not. It's not letting me. There it goes. Wow.
I'm so excited to see how many people in the chat room have been saying that they're signing back into the game.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Man, we've just been growing and growing and growing in the past year.
This 3.0 did add a lot to the game. I've been really impressed with what it did. Despite some of the things that have gone wrong, they've done a lot of things right as well. The story for
every expansion has its bugs.
So anyway, if you want to catch more of Redna, you can catch him on his Twitch channel at twitch.tv/R3DN4. Also go to Twitter, follow him on Twitter, R3DN4. As well, what do you got going on in your stream? Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, well, okay, so Sundays I do retro Star Wars, so it's not just SWTOR. It's mostly SWTOR, about 90% SWTOR, but I do retro Star Wars on Sundays in the afternoons on the East Coast. And that's been fun because I got that Humble Bundle and got, what was it, like 16 different old school
Sweet.
Star Wars games. And it's all first time experiences for me. Like I played KOTOR 2 and this for Star Wars. I'm such a fail. I'm such a fail, but I'm really excited to play through all of this stuff. Other than that, Sunday nights and Monday nights and Tuesday nights, and right after this show, I stream Operations, the story modes and hard modes of the current content. And Wednesdays is my day off. Fridays and Saturdays is just whatever the hell I want to do. A lot of achievement hunting and crazy weird stuff and old school operations and I need to start doing some more PvP, and I've been having people asking me to stream some GSF even, so it's like I gotta, yeah. So I stream 6 days a week, yeah. So
Sweetness. Yeah, if you want to definitely catch his streams, it's a lot of fun. He does giveaways and things like that as well. Go to twitch.tv/R3DN4. If you want to see more of what I do, you can go to Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Shadow, SHADDOE. I'm also on a Hyperspace Beacon, although that's kind of slacking a little bit now. I got to catch up with some stuff. I also write the Hyperspace Beacon on Massively OP, massivellyop.com. I do some stuff on Game Skinny. I do some stuff here at Gamebreaker. Every single day I write the news for GameBreaker.tv. And I also host this show every Thursday at 6:30 PST. What am I missing? Oh, yes. Follow Gamebreaker at Gamebreaker TV on Twitter. Thanks a lot for showing up, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.